They say greatness is attractive, that power, ambition, and dominance are magnetic. But here's the part no one wants to talk about. Greatness always comes with a cost. And that cost? It's loneliness. See, the kind of man who's chasing something bigger than himself isn't just busy, he's consumed. He doesn't just think about goals, he breathes them. Every minute of every day is a calculation, a strategy, a sacrifice. And when you live like that, there's little room for the kind of emotional comfort people expect in a relationship. Take Napoleon. We know him as a war genius, a man who reshaped Europe. But dig deeper, and you'll see a man who was desperately in love, sending emotional, even pathetic letters to Josephine while she slept with other men. This wasn't just heartbreak. It was a brutal realization. Not all women want greatness. In fact, many are afraid of it. Because greatness doesn't submit. It doesn't sit still. It doesn't wait patiently or ask for permission. It disrupts. It demands. And that makes it threatening. Most people, yes, even most women, don't want a man like that. They want someone stable, predictable, someone who makes them feel safe, seen, prioritized. That man? He's not chasing legacy. He's chasing her. A mediocre man doesn't wrestle with hard questions. He doesn't fight real battles. He doesn't build something eternal. He's soft. He's there. His whole identity orbits around her. And that's exactly what makes him attractive. Not for what he is, but for what he isn't. He isn't dangerous. He doesn't take risks. He's not going to disappear into some obsession that doesn't involve her. Napoleon saw this clearly when he said, "Women are nothing but machines for producing children." It wasn't about hatred. It was about brutal clarity. To him, most women never rose beyond biology. They didn't understand the war inside a man who refuses to live a small life. He wasn't trying to be adored. He wasn't interested in being emotionally validated. He wanted to conquer truth, even if it hurt, especially if it hurt. And what he discovered was this: the more a man rises, the more he walks alone. Not because he wants to be alone, but because emotional comfort and legacy building don't usually coexist. You don't get to be soft and monumental at the same time. Look around today. Everyone celebrates excellence, but only when it's packaged nicely, when it entertains, when it's beautiful, when it doesn't make the crowd feel insecure. But real power, real depth, real obsession, that scares people, especially in relationships. Napoleon knew that pain. He could command armies but couldn't command loyalty in love. Because what wins battles, focus, fire, sacrifice, doesn't win hearts. In fact, it often repels them. Women don't fall for power, they fall for presence. That's why even successful men today, men who build empires, rise through pain, and burn with vision, often come home to resentment instead of respect. Why? Because that level of greatness reflects something people don't want to see. It's a mirror, and it shows them everything they're not. That's the tragedy most men don't see coming. They think, if I just level up, become stronger, smarter, richer, then she'll stay. Then she'll admire me. But that's not how it works. Napoleon would have laughed at that idea, not out of cruelty, but because he understood the bitter truth. The more exceptional you become, the less lovable you appear, at least to those who crave comfort over fire. It's why so many women subconsciously choose men who are beneath them, men they can manage, men who revolve around their emotional gravity. Not because those men are admirable, but because they're safe. Safe men don't ask for silence while they think. They don't sacrifice the present for a dream. They don't vanish into the battlefield of creation. They don't challenge her. They orbit her. And that feels good for a while. Because being the center of someone else's world, that's intoxicating. But the man chasing greatness, he can't orbit anyone. He ascends. And that ascent threatens everything modern love is built on: predictability, codependence, emotional availability. Napoleon lived that tension. He wasn't cold by nature. He was cold by necessity. The man who could bend nations to his will was still seen as too distant, too focused, too obsessed. But how else do you build an empire? You don't etch your name into the bones of history by being soft. You do it by becoming more than a man. And in that process, you become less of a partner and more of a force. Let's be honest here. Do you want comfort or do you want legacy? Because Napoleon already knew. Most women choose the former. Ask any man who's built something real, something painful, relentless, immortal, and he'll tell you the same thing. You give your time, your soul, your very self to a mission, and you come home to resentment. Not applause. Not admiration, resentment. Because your discipline reminds others of their weakness. Your vision exposes their lack of purpose. Your silence feels like distance, and your obsession is mistaken for coldness. But you weren't built to cuddle. You were built to conquer. And that makes you unfit for the emotional script most relationships demand today. Let's be clear. Napoleon didn't hate women. He just saw something that most men refuse to accept. What women say they want isn't always what they choose. They admire ambition in theory. But in practice, they build homes with comfort. They praise vision, but sleep beside familiarity. That's why so many brilliant self-made men are left by the very women who once called them inspiring. Because love without understanding is a ticking clock. And most people, most women, don't understand what it costs to walk the path of greatness. The blood, the isolation, the years of being misunderstood, the silence, the grind. They see the result, but not the war behind it. And eventually, they resent the very fire they used to worship. That's why Napoleon spoke with such cold detachment about love. Not because he was incapable of it, but because love couldn't keep up with his destiny. And when a man chooses purpose over peace, he must also choose solitude. It's an ancient trade, power or comfort, but never both. You can have her heart, or you can have the world. Not both. And the ones who try to walk the middle path, they're always torn apart by it. So the great man walks alone, not because he enjoys solitude, but because the world he's building has no place for emotional permission slips. Napoleon didn't choose isolation. He was pushed into it by a vision too large, a calling too loud. Because the higher a man climbs, the fewer people can breathe the same air. Most women, most people, want to be seen, heard, held, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a man on a mission doesn't have time to validate every fragile emotion. Not because he's cruel, but because his heart has been rewired for something else. Duty. This is what modern culture refuses to admit. That the truly great, the truly focused, are terrifying. Not because they're toxic, but because they can't be tamed. You can't own a man who bows to something higher than romance. You can't schedule his love around your moods, and so society demonizes him. He's unavailable. He's emotionally distant. He doesn't listen. Of course he doesn't. He's busy making history. Napoleon wasn't hated for being cruel. He was feared for being unstoppable. His downfall wasn't just ambition. It was believing that those closest to him could understand the weight of his fire. They couldn't. And that's the price of legacy. Even the lion dies alone. So here's the truth most will never say out loud. A man must choose, empire or nest. One gives you your name carved into time. The other gives you someone to hold at night, but never both. Mediocre men are loved, praised, remembered as good guys. But the great ones, they're exiled, misunderstood, feared, and yet they're the ones who shape the world. So if you're a man chasing something eternal, something no one else sees, prepare to be unloved. Prepare to be misread, doubted, and left behind. Not because you're broken, but because you're dangerous, and the world only bows to danger. You might be asking yourself, but why? Why would she walk away from a man like that? Because great men are mirrors. They reflect everything others are not. Your silence highlights her insecurity. Your independence reminds her of her dependency. Your fire scorches the illusion of emotional control. You don't orbit her. You rise. And that's terrifying. You can't be seduced with softness, can't be manipulated with affection. You either lead, and she follows, or she leaves. And most women won't say it, but deep down, they don't choose men out of admiration. They choose men they can mold. Men who cry when they cry, who pause their mission for her emotions, who make her feel like the sun of his universe. But that's not you. You don't pause. You don't orbit. You build, and you bleed for it. You're not heartless. Your heart is just disciplined. You're not unloving. But love isn't your mission, and that makes you unreachable for the average woman, because she's not looking for a storm. She's looking for a lullaby. She doesn't want to rise. She wants to rest. So don't envy the mediocre man. Pity him. He may be loved, but he'll never be followed, never be remembered, never be truly needed in a way that shakes the soul. He is tolerated, adored perhaps, but not respected. As for you, don't wish to be loved like the rest. You were built for more. Your path is sharp, not soft. Your reward is conquest, not cuddles. And yes, it will cost you, maybe everything. But if you stay the course, if you endure, the world will remember your name. Because in the end, no woman builds statues, no woman rewrites history. No woman commands armies or vision into reality. Men do, and they do it alone. Bleeding, focused, unloved, but unstoppable. So stop wondering why she didn't choose you. She didn't want fire. She wanted a fireplace. And you, brother, you are the fire. And the world still bows to fire.